Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. I'm Selway-Bitterroot Aidan.
I'm Gaynor.
And today we've got the most remote places left in America, low of 48, so that's just the continental USA, whatever you call it.
Yep.
What state would you imagine to be the most remote place?
Montana.
Yeah, somewhere that neck of the woods, I would agree. Wyoming, maybe.
There's a hell of a lot of land left to build on, so.
Yeah, let's get into this.
The continental United States is one of the most interconnected areas in the world, and few regions within it can still truly be considered remote and difficult to travel through. I mean, just look how much Google Street View covers the country. It's almost hard to comprehend how many roads there are. However, in this video, I'm going to highlight 10 of the most remote and inaccessible regions left in the continental United States using Google Earth. These locations lack any substantial roads, lack any significant human habitation, and are composed of extremely difficult terrain that makes them some of the last truly wild places in the lower 48. If you are a consistent viewer of my channel, I actually plan to visit all of these places in the future, and I should be visiting several of them this year, so keep an eye out.
Are you going to get there?
Yeah.
Starting at number 10, we have the Maze in Utah. This is the only region on this list that is not an official wilderness area. It is also one of several regions in this video that is located within a national park, Canyonlands in this case. While this might bring some surprise, as most would expect a national park to mean immense crowds on busy roads, this does not hold true for the Maze district of Canyonlands. While it technically does have a road, it can hardly be called a road.
Wow.
Who's
You would
driving
either
down
need an
that?
extremely capable 4x4 rig or the help of a guided trip. The rest of the region must be hiked or climbed across. It's called a maze for a reason, as it contains a dense labyrinth of thousands of canyons, many of which have never been named or photographed. With only a few main trails and harsh desert conditions, the maze is not heavily traveled, leaving it as a relatively untouched
It's a nice
and
place.
accessible
It
area.
looks lovely. I'm
Yeah.
just wondering how many bodies are in there.
Number 9 is an area known to the locals
Montana.
as the Bob, named after Bob Marshall, who was a forester and the co-founder of the Wilderness Society. The Bob Marshall Wilderness Complex contains multiple mountain ranges and multiple connected wilderness areas, totaling over 1.5 million acres. This area is
What?
entirely roadless and only contains a few old Forest Service lodges that are no longer running. The only way to travel this area is to start on foot or
Do you know what it is? Because like when you circle it on the map of a state in the USA, it doesn't look that big, but then it actually is
Yeah,
massive.
when you look at the actual dimensions of it, yeah, it's
1.2
huge.
million acres.
horseback
No
on one of
road.
the various trails on the edges of the wilderness. Its most notable feature is a 22-mile-long, 1,000-foot-tall rock wall, referred
Wow.
to as the Chinese Wall. Containing many high mountain peaks,
Is that
rugged
Great Wall of
terrain,
China?
and abundant
Yeah.
grizzly bears, this region remains very wild to this day. It was actually only in researching for this video that I discovered that this Chinese Wall and the entire Bob Wilderness existed, and I'm really excited to go here in the future and hopefully hike along the Chinese Wall. It's just one of the coolest geologic features
That
I
is
think
cool.
I've
It
ever
is
I'm
seen.
surprised
cool,
that's
yeah.
not more
I'm super
famous.
excited to visit this place, hopefully in the next couple of years.
Just press pause. He's just said, though, it's got black bears or
Grizzly bears.
grizzly bears. Why would you want to go on there if you know there's bears?
Because I think people go where there's bears everywhere, though, don't they? It's just a chance you have to take.
Again, how many
You
dead
can't
bodies
let
are
stuff
there?
like that stop you from doing what you want to do.
Number 8 is the Owyhee Canyonlands region. This is a vast, empty area complete with one
Covering
of the
3
largest
states.
canyon networks in the United States. While the region itself is not too hard to access, traversing the hundreds of deep canyons is another story.
It's like a massive
The
trench.
canyon
Yeah.
complex spans 3 states, Idaho, Nevada, and Oregon. These canyons are particularly inaccessible due to their incredibly steep cliffs, which offer few points of entry. In addition, many of the rivers are extremely treacherous even for the most experienced rafters.
Oh my
Wow.
God.
Several of
Cool.
which
There's always that
have
one
died in
guy.
these waters.
Yeah.
Although there are several roads in the region, many are very rough and there are absolutely no services out there. Many of the smaller side canyons remain unphotographed and unnamed. I've been lucky enough to visit several of these canyons due to their close proximity to my home, and I plan to make a video the next time I go there.
We could have with a helicopter.
Number 7,
Yeah.
the Boundary Waters region of Minnesota. While this area may not be as topographically extreme as some of the other regions on this list, It gets points for being very unique among American wilderness. The only way to traverse this 1 million acre area is by foot or canoe.
I'd like that.
Located on the Canadian Shield, this area contains over 1,000 lakes and hundreds of miles of rivers. This makes it easily the best place in America to backcountry canoe camp. Additionally, it contains the largest...
When I lived in Canada, the family that I worked for had a lake house, and that's what it was like. They had a canoe, and you could just canoe around all these like little mangroves. And
it is quite cool, that, to be fair.
Remaining uncut forests in the eastern U.S. and is the only representation of the East on this list. Number 6 is the Wind River Mountains. The Wind Rivers might be the most impressive
Just circle the
range
whole
in
of
West,
Wyoming.
at least in my opinion. They're home to Wyoming's highest point, Gannett Peak, which is widely considered the most difficult state high point to summit outside of Denali in Alaska. Over 150 glaciers are present in the range, and Gannett Glacier is the largest in the Rocky Mountains of the U.S. They are a very large mountain range at over 100 miles long, and not a single road crosses the range.
wow.
There are many access points, all in the foothills, but to reach the central peaks, the only way is on foot. With thousands of alpine lakes and probably just as many grizzly bears, this range is truly a sight. I visited this range twice in 2024, and both times were breathtaking, and I couldn't believe the scale of this mountain range. You can count on seeing me there again this year. Number 5 is within another national park, the Olympic Mountains.
I would
I did
not
not
have
even
guessed in
know
Washington.
until researching
No.
this video, but almost the entire national park is wilderness, and the Central Mountains lack any roads that venture far into the interior. Most of the visitation to this park is to the separate coastal section, which is much easier accessed than the high mountain peaks. There are many trails in the mountains, but
Well, that's
still
nice.
the vast majority of the region is impenetrable
Some
coastal
out of a horror
rainforests
film, that.
surrounded by glacier-capped mountains. Once you get past the tree line, the going gets a little bit
God.
easier, but it can still be dangerous alpine hiking.
Yeah.
This keeps many hikers limited to day hikes, and only experienced backpackers and mountaineers venture deep into these mountains. Number 4 is the Selway-Bitterroot Wilderness of Idaho and Montana. At
There we go.
1.3 million acres of continuous land without roads, it is the second largest continuous wilderness area outside of Alaska. It is separated from the largest continuous wilderness area, which is later on this list, by one mere dirt road. The only way to access this massive area is by various trail entry points on the outskirts or a few backcountry airports located within the area. Unlike some of the other mountainous areas on this list, the majority of this region is alpine parkland instead of rocky crags like the Wind Rivers. However, it does still have many high peaks due to the Bitterroot mountain range being within it. Abundant with wildlife like gray wolves and elk, this area is one of the largest truly wild areas left in the mainland U.S. That is such because of its remoteness rather than its inaccessibility. The Selway-Bitterroot
look at
Wilderness area and the number 1 wilderness area on this list are located pretty close to me, and I hope to visit them soon. I have been in them before and just not really made a video. I did make a video going into the Bitterroot Mountains, but not the Middle Fork of the Salmon River where I've been before. But anyway, I'm really excited to go back to these places soon since they're pretty close to me, and you guys can look forward to that. Number 3 goes to the North Cascades region. Although
Another
it
one in
encompasses
Washington.
another national park and is split into several different wilderness areas due to a highway running right through the center, it is still high on this list because of its extremely dangerous terrain. Although they aren't the highest mountains in the mainland U.S., they are the highest in the far northwest, causing them to receive immense amount of snowfall and accumulate many glaciers, as well as being shrouded by thick temperate rainforest. This makes them very dangerous and causes the park to have the highest death rate of
Whoa.
any park
Wow.
in the U.S.
By loads.
Several roads are present in and around the park, but all of the surrounding wilderness areas are not split or entered by any roads. Because of this, most of the high interior peaks are completely inaccessible beyond the trails to anyone who is not an experienced mountaineer. This mountain range is probably the highest on my bucket list, and I hope someday that I'm good enough at mountaineering to be able to summit some of these craggy peaks. Number 2 is the Absaroka Range of Wyoming and Montana. These mountains cover a massive area and are much wider than many of the other ranges on this list due to their unique geology, making the interior lands much harder to reach. Covered by 4 different large wilderness areas totaling 2.5 million acres, each section represents a massive chunk of wild, untouched land. They are home to some of the highest concentrations of grizzly bears left in the lower 48, not to mention countless other species of wildlife. It is characterized by millions of acres of roadless high mountain peaks and canyons. This area is notable because it actually has the most remote location in the lower 48 from a distance to road standpoint. Being a less flashy mountain range compared to the nearby Tetons or Wind Rivers, this range receives nowhere near the level of visitation. This leaves it largely wild and untouched, even by major recreation standards. The Absarokas are actually located pretty near to me, and I'm hoping to visit them this year and hopefully doing a pretty big backpacking trip, so you guys can look out for that this year.
Number 1.
Number 1
Idaho.
on our list is the largest contiguous wilderness area in the continental United States at 2.36 million acres of roadless land.
That's unbelievable.
It is connected to the Gospel Hump Wilderness and
That's the
some
size
other
of
roadless
countries.
Forest Service land, forming a 3.3 million acre area devoid of roads.
Small countries, but still.
Yeah.
Which is why it's first on this list. Combining this with the Selway-Bitterroot Wilderness, of which it is only separated by one dirt road, makes an area of uninhabited wilderness the size of New Jersey.
Wow.
Damn.
The only access to this area is from perimeter hiking points, the Salmon River, or several airstrips located within the region. It's dominated by several mountain ranges, as well as the middle fork of the Salmon River, which is popular for rafting. However, much like the Absarokas, this area remains under the radar for most tourists, making it a very untouched area to this day, with few trails in its massive area. This, combined with its large size, makes it my most inaccessible and remote region left in the continental United States. This was by no means a comprehensive list, and I am sure I missed some areas, so you can comment those below. If you want to see a video of me exploring number 4 and number 6 on this list, make sure to click here. Thanks for watching.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I'd love to do the whitewater rafting like that,
Yeah.
but not the...
But you don't want a grizzly bear coming up and tapping
No.
you on the shoulder when you're not looking.
No, but I don't want to do the hiking. I've no interest in that.
No, I'm not really a hiker myself either. I've got no interest in that.
No.
So it's a good thing that you only did the lower 48, otherwise I think they probably would have all been in Alaska.
Yeah.
You would
Yeah.
have thought so.
Yeah.
Anyway, hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure you hit the like and subscribe button for us, please, and we'll catch you in the next one.
Bye.
Cheers.